ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm your host, Airsoft Owl, and today I bring you a fanfiction review of something I actually came across. You see, one day, well, over the weekend, of course, I was a little bored, and I decided to look around for some Enclave fanfiction, or just Fallout fanfiction in general. And I came across one called Fallout Restoration of the Enclave by Bankson03. And, of course, the description reads that it was inspired by the Remnant Patriots and Jean the Grand Clone Rebellion. Already, my fears were rising, because here's the thing. Remnant's Patriots can't frickin' use the space bar or even the enter bar for nothing, and it is just a jumbled word salad, and Jean the Grand Clone of the Clone Rebellion of the Republic, or just the Grand Cloner, basically the Jean Cloner arc fucking fanfic, legitimately uses the script format. And my fears were realized when I saw that this dude actually is using the script format as well, and believes that the more images he uses and the more GIFs he uses, the better of a fanfiction he makes. Okay, real talk here, real quick, folks. Just because you can doesn't mean you shouldn't. I don't care if you have the ability to. Do not, I repeat, do not try to push the limit of what you can do with images, videos, and GIFs. If you need a good example of how this is done tastefully, James Mercury, or the Shadow Trooper, who has been on the channel before, writes fanfics as well, and he actually shows that no, you don't need a large amount of fucking videos or GIFs or images to actually make a decent fucking fanfic. Just saying. Now, obviously that's one of my few gripes with this story, but I will say, just for the benefit of the doubt, that yes, this author actually does have something of an interesting concept. A legitimately good concept that could actually work, and has been done before by, of course, my friend the Enclave Commander, who actually made his version of a Fallout Remnant story. However, his is a little bit different versus what we have here. So we're just going to kind of go into this and just say right off the bat that this story is a fucking betrayed Jean Arc story. Yes, a Jean Arc story gets betrayed, his trans gets revealed, blah 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 blah. We've heard this song and dance before, moving the hell on. It is clear, though, that this person does actually enjoy the Enclave, actually does enjoy the reformist Enclave, as well as, of course, the Enclave media that is presented. However, he does do a lot of pitfalls that, while yes, would be kind of a cool idea, in execution is not lazy, but just an absolute mess. Now, I will say, combining Rise of the Enclave from Fallout 76 is a cool idea, but timeline-wise does not make sense. Like, 0 sense does it make timeline-wise, because Rise of the Enclave, in the actual cohesive narrative of Fallout, takes place well before the events of Fallout 4's Enclave, America Rising 2. This does not work in a coherent storyline. Am I saying that he shouldn't have done that? Coherently? Does it not make sense? No to the first one, yes to the second one. Because, again, I'm not saying that having a faction that takes place canonically earlier in the timeline should not happen. If anything, if he wanted to use Rise of the Enclave, which, again, takes place before Fallout 4, then yes, he should have chose that Enclave over being like, hey, I am a part of this Enclave. Which, yes, Jean Arc basically is apparently been with the Enclave for a good long damn time, and apparently has been in the DC Wasteland, first and foremost, and then everything else in between. And believe me, this is a mess and a half, trying to basically understand the timeline this dude created, because what he was trying to do is make an overpowered Jean Arc who has basically been like, oh yeah, no, I was here, 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 and here, in these different points in time. That don't make sense.
Wait a tick. Besom, If I travel back to 1969 and I was frozen in 1967, presumably I could go visit my frozen self. But if I'm still frozen in 1967, how could I have been unthawed in the 90s and traveled back to, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed?
Look, to any author out there, and I'm saying this as polite as possible, if you are going to create a story and choose a faction of the Enclave, choose that faction. Have them be at that point in time. Do not just haphazardly throw them all together thinking it's going to work, because then you have Fallout fans such as myself who are going to call you out on this, who are going to tell you that doesn't make sense. Again, I get what you were trying to go for. It doesn't work. It's a good idea, cool concept, horrible execution. Getting back to it, basically, it gets weirder. It gets very fucking weird, because, again, once they all get together, apparently Monty the creator of RWBY, shows up out of nowhere. Just go ahead and take a shot for this trope that's been done God knows how many times. And basically, again, I
couldn't make this shit up. I couldn't make this shit up if I tried. I'm sad that I lack the talent to make this shit up.
I'm going to go on a rant. I'm going to go on a tangent. I really will. But here's the thing. Monty the only reason he wants to basically have Jean Arc and the Enclave show up in Remnant is to try and bring peace and order. Okay? If you're going to fucking do that, I'm going to get to that tangent. Basically, with a snap of his fingers, Monty literally transports the Enclave, as well as and revives all the dead Enclave, and the oil rigs and stuff, and all the facilities, and I just, for the love of God.
I don't know where I felt like I get a little drink around here, do you, bud?
Can we not do this trope? Can we not? Look. The Monty stuff could have worked if you didn't have him just immediately appear and be like, oh, hey, yeah, no, I'm gonna send you little guys over here along with all the I just cannot. Pick a lane. To all the fanfiction authors, pick a lane and stick with it. Anyway. Look. There's a cool concept here, there's a great idea. This could have worked if maybe they went to basically Big Mountain. Big Mountain was known to be messing with teleportation technology. And yes, this could have worked if maybe, hey, they went here, they fucked with this shit, and then something happened and they basically got yoinked over to Remnant, or at least a good chunk of land got yoinked over to Remnant. You know, something that actually makes legitimate sense in the concept of the Enclave messing with things they really shouldn't. I mean, hell, the Institute was dealing with molecular technology and basically dealing with things that they really should not. In this case, what could have made much more sense is if the Institute, or at least in this case the Enclave, the East Coast Enclave, the New Enclave, the Boston Enclave, for America Rising 2, that's actually the Reformist Enclave. Yes, you heard me correctly. The Reformist Enclave literally messed with the teleportation technology. Something went wrong and basically pulled a Japan summons or just something, transporting a large portion of land and having it basically be somewhere in the vast ocean of Remnant. Hell, it could have been the entirety of Boston for all I care. Something that actually makes sense. Oh, before I forget, apparently there's a moon base on Remnant's moon now, because of course there is. I just, for the love of God.
Excuse me, what?
And that's not even the worst of it. That's not even the worst. There's an entire chapter just related to propaganda, and I cannot for the life of me bring myself to care. That is just lazy writing. It's just lazy. Dedicating an entire chapter to just propaganda does not make a good story. All you're doing is just sharing what essentially is just your Facebook post that does not work. It does not work. If you wanted to show basically, hey, this is what's going on in Remnant and their reaction to this, That's a chapter you could have done. You could have shown Remnant's reaction to the Enclave and kind of what they're doing, as well as, hey, this. Instead of just waving your hand and basically showing propaganda and being like, oh yeah, no, now they're getting a ton of recruits over at Beacon and things like that. No, 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 no. That's not... I don't care. An author... I'm giving this advice. As someone who has read a lot of bad stories, as someone who has read a ton of formats that did not work, have read things that sometimes work, sometimes do not, things that have basically good concepts, bad executions. You have a good concept here, but Jesus Christ, you have a bad execution. That's not even bringing up the weapons. My God, the weapons. Look, if you're going to use images of guns, at least let them be the correct firearms, for God's sake. Because, I'm not even joking on this, the dude basically calls the service rifle and shows an AR-10. Yes, that is an AR-10, ladies and gentlemen, and if you're going to use the service rifle model, use the actual mods from Nexus. At least those mods actually work. Hell, the Service Rifle Expansion Project actually has better examples of the Service Rifle and actually in lore as well as fun tactical stuff at the same time. Or even the actual Fallout New Vegas Service Rifle mod. Actually use those, for God's sake. Not... Oh my God, and even the frickin' hunting rifle. Yes, the original hunting rifle was basically either the Rangemaster or an FN-FAL. And if you need to use an FN-FAL model, actually use Degenerate Dax FN-FAL models for the Minutemen's rifles. And, oh my God, if you need to use a frickin' M249 that is Fallout style, at least use the Assault LMG mod from Nexus, for God's sakes! There are so many mods on Nexus that you could have used. Hell, if you have to, just use the... Like, if you have Opera GX... then use the snapshot mode, the camera mode that I actually use to capture most of these images. Because, of course, you know you can't save images from Nexus. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're going to use weapons, at least try and be as lore accurate. Or at least use some that are lore accurate, for God's sake. There are so many mistakes made in this story that I cannot begin to even tell you where to begin. Oh wait, no, I can actually, because I've already given you examples of how you could have done better, how you can do better with the story. Because again, this is a good concept, a great concept. And instead of, hey, let's just go ahead and use the same trope of a betrayed John Arc over and over and over again, how about this? How about we take a concept that actually is novel and new? A young Jean Arc. A young Jean Arc who gets lost. Out in the woods somewhere. Maybe he's out with his twin sister or his sisters. You know, they go out on a family outing. He gets separated from his family. He gets basically attacked by Grimm. And then somehow, some multiverse chicanery happens and he gets launched into one of the many wastelands and gets found by the Enclave because he's a kid. How about that? And then he's raised in the Enclave. And this is where you can have fun with it. It could be basically either the West Coast Enclave, it could be the East Coast Enclave, it could even be the Appalachian Enclave. And if it's the East Coast Enclave, it's basically the America Rising 2 Enclave. He's found by Nate. They go to the vault. They help revive the people. And then from there, it's basically the whole plot of America Rising 2. And Jean Arc is helping out. That is what you can do with the character. And then through some kind of weird chicanery, because here's the thing, you could have the Appalachian Enclave actually come back. And instead of it basically being, hey, it's the Appalachian Enclave from Rise of the Enclave, which basically takes place before any of the events of the fucking Fallout games, it's the remnants of the Enclave who basically come to Boston and have slowly expanded. And through some kind of chicanery at the Institute, they find themselves wound up on Remnant. Well before the events of basically Volume 1. And through their intervention and through their basically things, they literally are able to change aspects of Remnant. And this happens before, this is basically after Jean Arc has disappeared from Remnant, and as he has grown, and after he basically apparently is de-aged because of chicanery. Basically all of them are now back in their prime age because of the freaking chicanery from the Institute. Oh yeah, the Institute was taken with them, by the way, along with this chunk of land and all this other good jazz. It can basically just choose a part of the ocean, hell, have it end up right next to Menagerie, if you want to, and Menagerie basically becomes a republic. A actual frickin' republic. Through the help of the Enclave, they become a superpower. Because of the help of the Enclave, they become an economic superpower. Because of the help of the Enclave, and the Enclave enters into a cold fucking war with Atlas. Because, of course, the politics of Atlas, not the power-hungry Ironwood. Not the Ironwood who's basically brainwashed by Atlas. No, not that bullshit. Don't do that bullshit. Actually stick with something that actually makes it a cool, awesome political thriller. Because a military political thriller, as well as a Cold War with the Enclave versus Atlas, actually works in this concept. As well as Enclave basically expanding out with their influence through propaganda, through their own news outlets, through their own things, arms manufacturing, that sort of thing. Actually doing the American exceptionalism and them claiming territory in vacuo that basically is Remnant's version of freaking Wild West in Afghanistan and Africa. Again, so many fucking concepts you could have gone with, and I just gave you one. I may do an entire freaking pitch video talking about the Enclave and Remnant and how that can work in several different iterations and portions. But what I'm saying here is that you have a cool concept, but this feels rushed. And that's the sad thing. This doesn't feel like a well-paced, slow-paced, building-up Enclave story, a building-up Fallout story. This feels like a rushed Call of Duty campaign from Activision. It feels like Modern Warfare 3's campaign. That's what it feels like, because it's rushed. It feels rushed. It feels like you didn't take the time to actually look at the concept and actually see what could be done with the concept. Instead, it feels like you basically pulled an Activision and just rushed out a product thinking, oh, we can just add on to it and fix it later on. That's not how a story works. And for the love of God, ditch the script concept. The script concept is so overdone and so overused that I am just tired of it. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't good stories out there that use the script format, but Jesus Christ, it's overused. It is so overused that it is tiring. If you are doing this by yourself, that's understandable. But for the love of God, reach out to people. Be it on Discord, be it on the Fallout community itself, reach out to people who actually are doing legitimately good things. If you have to, reach out to Enclave Commander or look at Enclave Commander's stuff. His Ruby Fallout story, his Ruby Enclave story actually has a better concept and works better because the fact it actually takes its time to build up its world building, build up its concepts, instead of what you have, which is a rushed mess. Look, I know it may seem harsh. I know it may sound harsh, like I'm being harsh towards you. But I am harsh because you have a cool concept and a cool idea. The idea of the Enclave actually showing up in Remnant, either before Volume 1 or even during the mini-conflicts, like the Great War or even the Faunus War of Independence, where, again, like in, say, Remnant Cold War, where Dracula and the vampires from the Castlevania universe show up in Remnant well before the Great War, and they have their own version of the Great War, the 7-Day War, and they help the Faunus actually gain land and territory, and they actually fight for that land and territory, and they are not just freaking locked to Menagerie. That concept works. Instead of, oh, the Faunus are just, they're just stuck to Menagerie. No, fuck that shit. If you want to do an Enclave story where the Faunus are actually helping, support, and they actually gain territory and they keep that territory, instead of, oh, yeah, no, they are just locked down to this little island, that's what you should be doing. Hell, that's actually a good freaking story idea right there. The Enclave actually helping the Faunus and actually them gaining territory, and them actually locking down that territory. Instead of, oh, they're just locked down to this island. Fuck that. Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to read this yourself, it's in the pinned comment. Again, it has a good concept and a good... It legitimately could be a good story. That's what I'm trying to say. It could be a good story. Instead, all we get is a rushed hodgepodge mess. It's a literal mess. It's a mess that needs to be extremely polished. To anyone who is on Discord, who knows me in Discord, who actually are fellow authors, please reach out to Bankson and help a brother out. Help this guy out. To the Fallout community, help this guy out. Please, I mean, for the love of God, help him out. Anyway, as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Airsoft Al. And believe me when I say that there is a lot here that can work. And I can only hope to God that Bankson that this is just like a one-off. That this is just a, hey, you know, it's just something. It's just its own thing, right? I mean, it's not like he wrote another fan fiction about a Jean Arc and combined one of my other favorite games, right? Right?
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I've been Airsoft Al, the common man's Airsofter, who reviews honestly good concept stories that are just absolute messes, so you folks can take them and either help the author out, or actually do something good with them. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Airsoft Al. If you want to help out, support the channel, links down below. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen.